All right, this is the work session of the Mayor and Council from Monday, February 27, 2012. If we could stand and have a moment of silent prayer. If Councilwoman Murphy can lead us with a salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and attend any meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the law, the Mayor and Council of the Borough of River Edge have caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Borough Hall, and notices have been sent to the Record and the Ridgewood News. The mission of the governing body is to provide essential services through the establishment and implementation of public policy to safeguard our infrastructure, providing honest and courteous and professional services, establishing a sense of trust and accomplishment with our residents. Through research and prudent planning, we seek to minimize these risks and improve services. We are sensitive to the needs of our taxpayers while realizing that the governing body cannot be all things to all people within the revenue constraints imposed by state mandates, present economic conditions, and prevailing attitudes about taxation. If everybody can just excuse me because I'm battling a head cold right now, so I hope I get home before the Sudafed kicks in and I fall asleep on the dais. Let's have a roll call. Denise?
Councilman Murphy?
Here.
Councilman Ford?
Here.
Councilman Porco?
Here.
Councilman McMillan?
Here.
Councilman Bartoloni?
Here.
Councilman Papaleo?
Here.
And Mayor Muscaratola.
Here. All right, Alan, you're going to begin by having by continuing with our budget presentations on capital and some other issues.
If that's okay, Mayor.
Are we done with the budget?
Yes, we are. That's the only thing that comes in.
All right, we're done with our budget. We have 7 items for discussion. First item is the bus shelter.
Mayor, I'd ask John Lynch to come forward on these items. He will have input on these. I'm reporting back on the bus shelter. I went out I designed a specification for quotation to duplicate the services of DPW in 3 areas: snow and ice removal for the bus shelters, repairs for the bus shelters, and litter removal and graffiti removal, keeping those bus shelters clean. Please remember that this concept was to go out for bid for a company to come in and replace the bus shelters, replace them, and then provide the maintenance on them, enter into an agreement where they would be permitted to put advertising on the bus shelters. In lieu of that, the other alternative was to replace the existing bus shelters with those provided by New Jersey Transit, still have the maintenance responsibility. We would then offer to the private sector to come in as a donation and provide funds for these maintenance areas. The borough would then go out and engage contractors utilizing those private sector funds. The law does allow for this. We have done it in the past for certain public lands. In lieu of that, a signage could be placed that the private sector is maintaining this particular area or making a contribution towards it. We did go out for quotation to see if we could find firms that would provide this service. In the 3 areas, landscaping, general repair, and property maintenance, the only quotation we received for snow and ice services was from Keene Landscaping. $27,410 for the 10 bus shelters for an annual cost. We received no bids to provide the repair services or to provide the litter removal cleanliness of the bus shelters. So in my mind, it's not feasible to consider the going out to the private sector, getting donations if we can't find contractors to do this work. Another alternative, of course, is to take down the existing shelters and have New Jersey Transit put up new ones at no cost to us, but then we would still have the maintenance. So there's three options here, Mayor, that I'm bringing back to the Mayor and Council.
All right, let's open it for discussion. The existing shelters we have are the wooden ones, correct? And they're in
Correct.
state of disrepair.
Correct.
And the new bus shelter that New Jersey Transit puts up is the one similar to, at the intersection of Kinderkamak and Howland?
Correct.
And that's the aluminum one? with the-
Aluminum glass.
With glass. They're almost maintenance-free, wouldn't you say, John?
Well, we've dealt with a lot of issues in the south end of town with vandalism, with bringing glass and removing seats and aluminum parts to sell.
Right.
For the cost of aluminum.
And then New Jersey Transit has to replace it.
You know, in the contract, we handle all the maintenance.
So if somebody breaks the glass, we have to replace it?
That's correct.
Is that in the contract?
Yes, once New Jersey Transit puts it up, it's part of the deal is that we take over the maintenance on it. They're absolved of any maintenance issues.
So how bad do they have to be before we can ask them to put totally new new ones back?
Right. Just remove it and tell them to put up a new one. All right, well, what do you want to do about the bus shelters? Because they're looking pretty ratty.
There was a third option we had, I think gave the mayor and council a memo on it. And that's with the private sector. But
Yeah.
I think the only issue I could recall with the years of the contract, I think they wanted an extended term that was well beyond the statutory period.
Mhm.
Other than that, they would have pretty much control over the advertising on the shelter, but then they would maintain them, and that was the key element.
Johnny?
We've been talking about this for a long time. I mean, our shelters are definitely in terrible shape. I don't see a problem with having an ad there. I see it in other towns, it's fine. I don't think that they look bad or anything like that. They're brand-new shelters, they're maintained. It takes a lot of work off of John's plate there. I mean, right now, some of them are standing on cement platforms, so this way, because all the wood's getting rotted out. I mean, they're in terrible shape. It's a way for us to have maintenance-free, new shelters. If there's anything happens, they take care of it. It lifts a burden off of John's shoulders, so I would make the motion that we go back out to that private company and do this right away.
Second. All right, let's have a roll call. Any discussion?
If we do this, can we reverse it in the future?
It'll
How
be under
long
contract.
will we-
You're under
It's a
contract
term of
for-
years, so you can't really do it. If you don't like the advertising, it's going to be the same, so I mean, you have no control over that.
Unless you run around, steal it.
You send the vandals over.
Just remember that, as Sam said, we have no control over the advertising. So if they want to put up advertising that is,
Well, Mayor, I think there are some prohibitions, like tobacco ads would be prohibited, and there is some terminology for distasteful ads, but, you know, there is a gray area where they will have the right to put some things up. You're absolutely right.
I mean, the only thing I can go by is I drive through other towns, and I've never seen anything on these advertisements that appears in any way that I would say that we don't, you know, we shouldn't do this. So, I mean, but that's what I've seen out there. I really haven't seen anything.
I think Kathleen and then Ed.
Do we still have to, like, pay to for shoveling? Or they send a crew and they do that?
They send a crew.
Ed.
Sam, you had mentioned that there was a zoning issue also, with this might be considered
Yeah,
signage.
there's a zoning issue that we had looked at. I'm trying to remember how we resolved that, but there may be a zoning issue in terms of the signage. You may have to amend the signage ordinance to cover these shelters. I think that's what we had.
Yeah, I think we concluded that would be a first step.
We'd have to make that provision in the ordinance.
Yep.
And as a general rule, aren't the adjacent property owners responsible for maintaining the sidewalks in the event of a snowstorm? And are they excluded from having to maintain around a bus shelter?
Well, I think, again, you may want to see how our ordinance reads, and then you may have to then make that provision. I think that's the best way to deal with it, is modify the ordinance.
If the bus shelter is on commercial property,
Well, he's talking the right-of-way.
then
In the right-of-way, you have the
Right
shovel,
of the
you're
sidewalk.
responsible for maintaining it, no matter what's there, whether
I
it's
think that's the way our ordinance reads.
a bus shelter or a fire hydrant, you're responsible for clearing the snow.
on commercial property,
On residential also.
no.
But I'll
So
go look at the
there's
ordinance.
statutory immunity for residential, Al knows.
So we don't have to maintain our sidewalks if it snows?
Absolutely not. A single, owner-occupied, single-family.
Well, we have an ordinance that requires, you can get
There are
the town zoning
There are
official, or
ordinances in
the
every-
town
there are
code
ordinance-
enforcer.
There are ordinances in every town that require residential property owners to clean their sidewalks of snow and ice, and not one of them are enforceable, not a single ordinance. You could only require it of commercial property owners. But Sam's the borough attorney, so
I can look at it.
just my opinion.
I mean, I could look at that, but I think it's something we could address in the ordinance anyway. I mean, I would feel more comfortable, because typically, they issue summonses if you don't do it, so most people are not going to go out and hire a lawyer to challenge the
We can
ordinance.
vote on it now.
Yeah, we have a motion, we have a second, we had discussion. Denise, we can have a roll call.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Court?
Yes.
Councilman Porco?
Yes.
Councilman Mignon?
No.
Councilman Bartoloni?
No.
Councilman Papaleo?
Sorry, no.
I have to vote no, because I'm just afraid that we're going to get advertising on these signs that are not going to be appropriate for the community. I really do. There's going to be, arrested for DWI, call us, and sell your gold here, and all of these signs that are going to bring down the quality of, it's a quality of life issue with me, so I have to vote no.
Mayor,
Yeah.
would the council consider a motion to replace the wooden bus shelters with New Jersey Transit bus shelters? John, would that be of assistance in at least providing new bus shelters that might decrease our maintenance on the existing ones? Does that make sense?
I would make that motion.
It'd be a start.
Second.
What was the motion again?
To replace the wooden
Shelters.
shelters with New Jersey Transit shelters.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that?
Well, since we
Paul?
shot the first one down, we really have no choice, because the third choice is to rebuild them ourselves
Yeah.
and do it ourselves, so we're just kind of stuck with that.
Kathleen?
I mean, he said that if, stuff's destroyed, it's up to us to replace it, whereas the other shelter, it's, off our plates.
We heard
And
it.
we can go to other bus stops and see what they're advertising, and then, see what's there.
You'll get to vote. All right, let's have a roll call.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Court?
Got no choice, yeah.
Councilman Porco?
So we can move forward, yes.
Councilman Mignon?
Yes.
Councilman Bartoloni?
Yes, because I think it's the right thing.
Councilman Papaleo?
Thanks to council. All right, leaf collection. Is this an issue for John Lynch, right?
Yes, it is. He wants to just bring this to your attention and provide you with a little information, and perhaps it can be explored a later time in more depth. But, John?
Yeah, over the years, there's been numerous conversations, the way the Public Works does our leaf collection, the overtime spent on the leaf collection, and is there a better way? Numerous towns in the area, Emerson's one, Woodridge, Wayne as a big town has gone to leaf collection over the years in bags. council feels that that's something that they would like to look into. And if the overtime and those issues are in question still, I would ask that if we could form a subcommittee to look into bag pickup of leaves.
Johnny?
Okay, John, we bought that truck with the leaf pickup that goes in the front. How would that affect, I mean, is that now obsolete? We're not using that at all, and then we just wasted that?
No, if you want the bag pickup, you still have the leaves from the trees along the curb, which, if I could say, residents are very petty, that, oh, those leaves fell from that tree and it fell on the street. They're not going to clean it. So you still have to clean the street. Sorry to say so, but that truck would still be able to be used.
And what would, well, I guess you'd need a subcommittee to get all that information.
John, you already use a garbage truck and everything to maximize your collection rate, right? So you already, I think you optimized the pickup system as much as you could at this point. Would you agree with that?
In my opinion, we do a fabulous job compared to towns around us.
Yes, I don't disagree with that.
The way we used to do it also in the early 90s, I think we do. And the equipment has helped us tremendously as compared to when we had trucks, garbage trucks from the 70s. Now we have updated equipment, which they're on the road more, not broken down more.
All right.
I hate the idea of bagging leaves, but I think that it has to be looked at. I think if other towns are doing it, we definitely have to have some sort of subcommittee to look into it and get some cost savings and benefits to the town, if there is any.
Do we have Alan, do we have an existing subcommittee that can be used for this purpose, or do we have to create a new one?
I can't think of anything really in the public works area that would suffice, so I think you would have to create something.
All right. Johnny, that's your motion to create a
I think that is...
subcommittee?
Yes.
There a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Should we just create the subcommittee now?
Yeah, let's just vote on it first to create the subcommittee. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? All right. Johnny, you want to be on the subcommittee?
Can't wait, man. Absolutely.
All right. Anybody
Of course.
else? Can't have a subcommittee of one.
I prefer that.
Easier.
What?
I could get it
Makes the
done real
recommendations
fast.
a lot easier.
I could get to the recommendation a lot faster, Mayor, if it was just me.
I hope John had come in.
Okay. You're the DPW liaison anyway, so that's good.
I'll be on the subcommittee as well.
There you go. All right, we have our subcommittee. All right, the next item for discussion is the snow ordinance.
Just make sure they look at it.
Mayor, we provide the mayor and council with a listing of the code, section 400-18.1, which has to do with alternate parking for snow plowing. This is a thought that John Lynch has had, which might save some money, and he's asking the council to take a look at it. John, if you want to elaborate on this a little bit.
Yeah, just, for over 20 years, the town has been trying to figure out which is the best way to maximize the snow plowing and get cars off the street. And the town has changed over the years. It used to be more of an elderly community, and now it's houses with 3, 4, 5 cars. To maximize the efficiency for snow plowing, we have to get the cars off the street. We've just introduced an ordinance with at least 15 streets to put up signage as far as getting cars off the street. Obviously, each sign costs money, each pole costs money, and then to put the sign up, labor costs money. I just happened to be talking with Councilman Porco, and I said, maybe it's as simple as doing what New York City does, and do alternate side of street parking when it snows. And that way, the borough knows to get, to move their cars from one street to another, and just put a sign at the entrance of the borough. It may not be that simple, but that was my suggestion, to save costs.
All right, any discussion on this issue?
Yeah, I would recommend to just go with clearing the streets, put an ordinance to clear the streets. I drive around when those snowstorms come around to see what's on the street. There are some houses that don't have the room to park their cars. I can understand that. But, I mean, I think everyone's been pretty helpful over the past couple of years. If you notice, is there a certain zone or something like that you keep running to, or a couple blocks that seem to be...
Well, the areas keep increasing. I mean, this ordinance was just adopted, and it's 1.5 pages. Alternate side of the street would not be that you cannot park on the street. It would be that if it snows, you only park on one side of the street on the odd days, and that would be the odd numbers of the homes, and then the next day you would switch over, to the odd side of the street.
What do you recommend?
Well, if it works for New York City, I mean, and this would save a lot of money on signage, and I mean, each sign takes manpower to put up, and it's continued effort to take care of that sign.
All right, well, we have a traffic and safety committee. I don't think we've even met in 2012, but this is an issue that the traffic and safety committee should discuss. See if we can come up with a better ordinance than one we have that lists individually the streets, something that we can take care of by having signs posted at the as John suggested, at the entrances of the borough regarding parking on the streets when the roads are snow covered. So why don't we do that? And we give it to traffic and safety.
That's fine. I'd make that motion.
All right, I have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, John.
Thank you, Mayor.
Next, we have Grove Street satellite location for DPW.
John, I know that this was a concern several months ago. I don't know if, I guess you've reached a conclusion on this for the Grove Street, and maybe we can discuss an alternative to it?
Well, it's just another item that's been beaten to death, and I think it's time we make a decision one way or another. If we're going to be putting equipment up there, there is a chance of vandalism, and there are residents that are unhappy with the equipment put in the area also. I have taken my own measures in moving equipment and the construction boxes on the higher ground in the DPW lot. As far as satellite office, I've taken that off the table. I took that under my own means to handle that. I've created a satellite office in the upstairs attic of the Public Works office, so once the tidal water goes down, if we have to clean the first floor, I can still operate. I don't know how the council still feels about this. If I'm to put equipment up there, I don't know if it benefits us or doesn't benefit us at this time. I'm afraid of vandalism.
Ellen?
I'm glad the fire chief is here tonight. During the chief's open house, I had the liberty of going upstairs in the second floor, and that's where the emergency management office is. And I don't know, I wasn't able to go into the office. I haven't been in there in several years, but as I remember, maybe it's like a 10 by 11 area or a 10 by 12 area. And the thought occurred to me that perhaps I know there are additional phone lines up there, so I was thinking that perhaps DPW, when flooded out, could at least use those phone lines as one possibility. And the other possibility is to stage some computer equipment up there that, even on some sort of roller or canisters or something, could be rolled out into the hallway area there, could be plugged in and set up and allow DPW to continue their tracking and do the administrative work that they need to do in that type of a severe storm. And that can be preset prior to a storm occurring, so that when they do evacuate, they would have these items available to them as a satellite office until the water's receded enough for them to get back in. So it was a thought I had. I certainly welcome the chief's comments. We don't have emergency management here tonight to comment on it either, but that might be an area that could be explored as a satellite office, a temporary satellite office for Public Works. The fire department's on standby anyhow, that the house is open at that time, so those are just the personal thoughts that I had on it. Paul?
Well, I've actually been working with John on this for a couple months since you brought it up to me. The Grove Street idea, I think, is a good idea because it takes the equipment that's going to float around and puts it up there. It's off-season equipment. I think we've got to allow the DPW to do the job the proper way. I think that the amount of labor it costs to move that stuff around during a storm and put it back is ridiculous. And the stuff that usually gets thrown around is the off-season stuff that happens. The new thing that was brought up was the vandalism, but you know what? Hey, listen, if it doesn't work, we bring it back down to the DPW man. I don't think that end of it's going to cost the town any money. I think we're just going to move the crates up there. We talked about putting arbs around there to hide it, so it's not an eyesore, which I really don't think it's going to be an eyesore. I mean, I've been there a bunch of times to look at it. As far as the satellite office, John, what you showed me there, you said you can work with that. I think, again, that's taken off the table. I would like to put a motion tonight forward to allow John to use Grove Street for the storage of the off-season equipment, to be used only for the off-season equipment. And I know people are worried about the traffic. Be only used on a limited basis for storage. I'd like to put that motion forward to open it up.
I have a question.
Yes.
John, is it, I don't remember how many storage units you were talking about, and the size and everything, but would the equipment fit in that right-of-way portion that's off of, I guess, Lincoln? And then you could sort of fence it if you had to limit access in there, and it might be a little better screened if it's, you know what I mean, the right-of-way access?
Well, there's a few things. We have one 10 by 40 trailer and then 3 10 by 20, they're not trailers, they're containers, they're shipping containers. But in addition to that, what's clogging up the yard is snow plows when we're not using them, and leaf plows when we're not using them. And like Paul said, when we're about to get a flood, all this equipment has to be moved. I've literally lost snow plows and leaf plows down the river in the past. So all that has to be moved. That would eliminate me moving those particular equipment. I am concerned, like I said, with vandalism. But like Paul said, if you want to try it, we could try it.
Al?
Do you want to try it? I mean, I will want to know you want to try it. Do you want to try it?
Well, it's a double-edged sword, If you don't try, you might lose a plow down the river, and if you put it up there, if you got kids busting snow plow lights, which are $90 a piece, it's...
Got it. Tom, and then Johnny.
John, I remember when Kathleen and I came down for a tour of the DPW, you had said one of the concerns, in addition to the lights and vandalism of the truck, was you have the leaf vacuum, and you said if the kids started cutting that was a rather large expense. Is that still a concern you have? And what sort of expense? Could you remind us what sort of expense if that was damaged? What would we be incurring in loss and repair?
Yeah.
I think there'd be insurance for that.
Would there be insurance for that?
be a $2,500 deductible.
It would be. I mean, at this point, I wouldn't even place that piece of equipment over there.
I have to be honest with you, I'm not really in favor of this idea, personally. I'm also wondering why we hold on to this piece of property. It seems to be an empty piece of property. Have we been holding on to this property because we anticipated using it again, or is there something that else has occurred that has not permitted us to relinquish this piece of property? What is the vision? Why do we have this vacant piece of property? I know at one time there was a firing range was thought to be there. Can someone give us some background on this piece of property?
Paul?
Yeah, I mean, that was. I mean, you can go to every department around here, and it was the police department came up with a parking lot on top of it that would handle a lot of area over there, so they can actually open that storefront, so those stores can get more traffic and more customers. And that was one idea. And underneath, put a pistol range. But what happened was the town got into cost. With the cost, we just couldn't afford it. So that kind of just got put on the back burner. The other option was to put it up for sale. Again, you kind of, you put it up for sale, who you sell it to, and it's in an odd spot. You're probably going to sell it to developers. And on the third end, does the town really want to use lose that future property? So those are the issues that were thrown around. I talked to Chief Critty about it regarding the police department. I don't know. I know John and I talked about it a bunch of times, the ideas that came through. So there's nothing really solid that came through on those ideas. Now, the thing with the Grove Street project is that it's temporary. If you need to shut down in 1 hour, you can pull the stuff out and you're done. So it's not like anything's going to be there permanent. The only thing that would be there permanent would be if you put arbors, you can pull those out too. To cover up we're trying to cover up the street, so when you're driving down Park Ave or Lincoln or something, you're not going to see those boxes because they're going to be tree cover on there. So they're not. It wouldn't be exposed to a lot of visual scenes to it. And that's why we said we're going to limit the amount of times they're going up there. It's very seasonal. And like I said, you want to break it down. It's like a circus. You're done, pull it out, and you're out of town. And that's the way you got to look at it. That John said I didn't want to go into this thing where it was going to be a permanent structure there. So as far as the property, that thing will still be open to whatever you need to do with it. It was a matter of just taking the pressure off and the time. If you look at the labor time and the OT that it cost to move that equipment out during storms, that was the big concern. And when John came to us with the idea, I said, let's go with it. If it was my business, that's what I would do. If I could have a different location to keep my equipment that I'm not using all the time, I would have done it. To me, it just made sense. Boxes there, move it up. If you don't like it, move them back.
Just if I felt it, I thought also one of the comments we talked about, if we did this, there was a whole discussion about fencing. The proposal that I think you're offering right now is a non-fencing proposal, just kind of put the equipment there without any fencing so anyone can approach it.
Oh, pretty much. I mean, that's what we started out with. I mean, the fencing was something that I just heard about tonight. I wasn't really thinking fencing. It was more kind of out of sight, out of mind. They're container boxes. I mean, you can't break into those things unless you take a torch to them. And I mean, if you're gonna, you can bust a lock off. But in any case you look at, if somebody wants to get in, they're gonna get in. I mean, I was just trying to follow up as liaison to what John requested on that, and it made a lot of sense. I'm like, this is this problem we have. He said, he told me about a lot of labor that's going into this thing. And as far as moving equipment, so I just took that in consideration. And like I said, if it doesn't work, we find trouble. It can just be broken down and you're out and move it back down to where it was before.
All right, Johnny and then Ed.
I mean, I love the idea of having this satellite location. The only thing for me is I really do want to get rid of this property, so I don't know if it would be worth it to spend the money to put it up there and then to bring it back, just because I would love to see this property gone this year. I don't see why we're trying to develop this property. We're not developers. I would love to let it out there and let the free market do whatever they got to do. They'll decide what the best thing for that property is, and whatever, if it's putting parking there for the businesses on the side or whether building, whatever. And that's for our planning board to go through, and that's why we have all these things, and it's not for us to become developers. But that's why, but I do like the idea of a satellite location. I just don't feel like this property is the right one. I don't know if we have any other options.
Did you have something?
It sort of follows what Johnny's saying. I agree that ultimately the property should be redeveloped in some fashion, but I think it's something that's not going to happen this year. And I think it's something we need to look at, like I've said before, with a planner, looking at rehabilitation areas. I think if you were able to parcel together that whole section, you might have a developer who wants to come in and do one development. The other issue is the way it's zoned. The part on Grove Street is zoned residential. So, do we want more residential down there? I don't know if that's something we want either. So those are the kind of development questions you have to look at before we would go forward with a redevelopment plan on it. So, to me, I would, if we were able to limit the access, like I said, I would like to explore whether you could keep it on that right-of-way portion and fence that part off. And if that not being possible, maybe limiting just access through that part so you don't have to come up Grove Street in front of the residents to lessen the impact. That might be something to consider too. But I would see it as a temporary situation also, because in the long term, I don't think we should be holding on to that property.
All right, anything else? No? Okay. I don't think we didn't take any official action.
We have a motion. I had a motion on the table.
We don't have a second.
He had a motion, but there was no second. All right. That's it, the motion fails.
Hey, Mayor?
Yes.
I just have an emergency call. I have to run out.
Okay.
I have to leave the council.
All right. Anything,
I checked the list. I think I'm fine.
all right, good.
Yeah.
All right.
Mayor, the road resurfacing has been done already,
Yep.
and the recycling, John just wants to make you aware of something, and he has a little information on the recycling contract that we have at this time.
I remember during our budget process, John, Councilman Porco asked when the agreement for the recycling contract was up and when it was approved. And it was approved on 2009, May the 4th. And it's going to be ending May 31st of 2012. As we started looking into the benefits of dealing continually with Green Sky, which we are still using as of today. I did start negotiating with Green Sky. Basically, if I don't know, do you have a copy of this agreement?
Yes, I do. You want me to hit the highlights? There's a floor price that's usually established for the grade number 6 news. This proposes a $40 per ton grade floor price. The current price is $56 per ton, but that's down significantly from what we've been receiving. But it's typical of this type of a contract that rate floats, but what you get in the contract is a floor price of $40 per ton. They will provide a compactor on site, John. They currently provide a compactor for $1 a year basis, so we receive that benefit. They provide single-stream recycling at the schools and rebate us $20 per ton for material for the duration of the agreement that they collect from there. They also provide us with a 40 cubic yard container at our depot for storage of our electronic waste. They pick up the container, they replace it when it's sent, when it's needed, and there's a fixed rebate of $25 per ton for that waste as well. They also provide an educational outreach program for our elementary schools, and they provide a confidential document shredding service for the municipality as well. So these are some of the aspects that John is looking at, in not only in the current agreement, but a future agreement, and he's talking to other companies about it. This does not have to be bid out. This is an exception under the local public contracts law because it has to do with the marketing of the recyclable materials recovered through a recycling program. So, wanted to make you aware of where we're at with that.
All right, but John, are you going to get us other proposals before May 31st from
That's
other
correct.
companies?
I just wanted to bring forth to you what Green Sky is bringing to the table at this time. One item Alan left out was currently we get $5 per ton for commingling. That's your glass, your cans, and your plastic. And that's going to be changed to $32.50 a ton. It's just another change. What I do have is I have a company called Atlantic Coast Fibers coming on Thursday, March the 1st. And I'm going to be discussing these items with them, whether they can match it or, do better than Green Sky.
Johnny?
When this came up, my question was if we can get somebody to do the pickups for us and take the recycling and see what kind of cost those would be. Because I had heard that other towns potentially could do this, have done this, and it doesn't cost them anything because they take the recycling, and the recycling, we don't get any money for it, but at the same time, we're not spending our manpower. I think it was 3 days a week, 3 guys doing recycling every week. So it saves us on all that manpower for a very low return of the recycling that we get. And so I'm wondering if there are companies out there, because I would like to see those in this sort of bidding that we're going to do, not just how much we're going to get for recycling, but what these other companies bring to the table, to do the whole thing, pick up and sell off the recycling. I don't know if that's possible. Are those
Yeah, no.
I think you need another subcommittee.
Or
a subcommittee for bids?
Well, no, I think to look at the whole issue, I think there's a lot of issues that interplay with that.
I would just like to see the bids as far as, okay, we got 3 bids, this is what we get for
I think the problem that we ran into the last time we began to discuss this was that we didn't have a good grasp on exactly how much it was costing us for the DPW recycling pickup. We didn't know because the number in the budget was not the number in the budget was just a number in the budget. It wasn't the actual number.
Right, but we do know that it's 3 guys, 3 days a week. Whatever that comes out to. I'm talking about manpower right now. Strictly going by manpower, we devote 3 guys, 3 days a week to recycling. If we can get a company to do the recycling and it doesn't cost us anything, potentially, because they're taking the recycling and, getting money for that.
Right.
It's one less burden that John has to deal with when we've got these issues with manpower and things like that. So, if there are those kind of contractors out there that are doing that, I would like to see them side by side with these bids.
Yeah, no, there are contractors that do that. In other towns, they have contracts with companies that go curbside, pick up your recyclables, and then pay you per ton for that. It's not as high as Green Sky because we did the collection for them. Right. So, Alan, what committee would you suggest that we send this issue to? What subcommittee?
same committee that's doing the, well, this could go to the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee?
Because we'll do an analysis of the personnel costs. What we want to see is that if a contractor is going to pick up the recycling and take that to market and keep that, what he accrues from that recycling, how that will save the borough any money.
Yeah.
Because what we will have to absorb then is the vegetation costs that we pay out of our trust, the repairs to some of our vehicles that we pay out of the trust, the dumpsters we use for stump and log removal out of the trust, because we won't have those revenues coming into the trust. So those costs will have to go into the budget, and we will certainly pick up some productivity in the Department of Public Works, but in terms of, are we going to net any financial gain from this, that's what the Finance Committee will look at and will report back on.
All right. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, good.
Thank you.
All right, I have, we did recycling contract, we're up to the rent leveling ordinance, and I think that's Sam's did an opinion on that.
Yeah, I analyzed our ordinance in comparison to New Milford's ordinance. New Milford has a more detailed ordinance. I think the most distinct difference is in the annual charge that can be, that you can increase your rent. In our ordinance, we allow 4% per year. We don't permit any tax surcharge to be passed through to the tenants. Under the Milford ordinance, it's a 2% cap, and they do allow they have a provision for a pass-through on the tax surcharge, so that essentially we have a flat rate of 4%, which the landlord can assess each year on a 12-month cycle. The other thing, I think it's of note, aside from that, I would say we have vacancy decontrol. Both ordinances do have vacancy decontrol, which is important, I think, so it at least allows the landlord to develop a market rent in the event there is a voluntary or uncoerced vacancy. And we do have a similar provision to that. I reviewed also the level of appeals, at least among the garden apartments that we do have. I spoke to Alan today, Alan Spinella, who was our tax counsel. He's done a lot of our appeals over the last 10 years. I did a lot before that, and we never had a lot of appeals out of the garden apartments. I think what it is that the 4%, if you compare with a lot of municipalities, is a pretty decent bump in the rent. So that I think the landlords are basically satisfied on the level of increase in rents, and I think overall our buildings are maintained reasonably well. I think throughout the town, I think the landlords do keep the buildings up fairly well. So that's the distinction. You could, in the instance of New Milford does have a remittance policy that if you're a landlord and you get a tax reduction, then that has to be passed through to the tenants. On the other hand, they have to then to increase the tax burden on a tenant. They can surcharge the tenant. So I think the ordinance makes sense from that perspective, that if you can surcharge the tenant for a tax increase, and if there's a tax increase, they allow in New Milford to charge it. Our ordinance does not. That 4% is inclusive of any tax increase, and you can't pass it on to the tenant. So I think that's the major distinction if you look at the two ordinances. You may also have a greater administration. I think there's more detail even on the hardship criteria in the New Milford ordinances. There's more of a formula-based situation there. I think you may have maybe a greater administrative issue here, probably to administer the ordinance in New Milford than you would here in River Edge. Only because there are limitations on increases in hardship. It can't be greater than, I think, 7% of certain types of costs and replacement reserves, etc. So I think our ordinance is a little simpler, and I think basically we haven't had a lot of appeals among the garden apartments. I think it's largely I'm only surmising because I talked with Alan and we both compared notes. I think we both have concluded that 4% annual increase, I think the landlords are fairly satisfied with that, coupled with the vacancy control.
All right, the reason why I asked that this item be put on the agenda was because when we discussed tax appeals and the increase in the filing of the tax appeals, I know that towns like New Milford have an ordinance that requires that if a landlord successfully appeals their taxes, they have to refund the money back to the tenants, which has a deterrent effect on landlords even filing appeals in the first place, because there's no benefit to them if they have to give the money back to the tenants anyway. So it reduces the number of tax appeals filed. So that's why I thought it would be something that we should discuss and consider. So Sam indicates that it really thinks that it wouldn't have any net effect on River Edge based upon the fact that we allow a 4% cap on tax in our rent control ordinance to begin with. So I just wanted to make everybody aware of that and get everybody's opinion. If we should go forward with amending the ordinance or just keep it the same.
Has there been any appeals? I mean, how many times have they appealed?
It's very infrequent. There's been very infrequent appeals. And my opinion is it's probably because they're collecting 4% a year. That's not a bad return on an investment, especially in this market, on long-term or short-term investments, 4% a year increase. I don't even know if they increase at 4%.
We're going to open the meeting up to the public, and then you'll get an opportunity to address this issue. Anybody else? Good idea, bad idea, let it go for now?
Well, I'll be honest with you, we really just got this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'd like to spend some more time with this.
All right.
this
And I think it
background.
was emailed to us around
Yeah.
4 o'clock, and
Yeah, take a look at it. I tried to analyze both of them, and I think you just have to say, I would say this in defense of the Milford ordinance, it wouldn't do any harm if you did incorporate it. We don't see many appeals, so that if there were an appeal, I guess this would certainly, like the mayor indicated, would discourage the appeal.
All right, work session consent agenda. We only have 2 items on. Does anybody need to pull any of those items off?
I'd make a motion to adopt the work session consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? All right, council reports. Any council reports tonight, or do you want to wait until the public meeting? Report, okay, we'll begin.
It was just the 4th of July committee met, and we talked about everything that's going on for the 4th of July. We have our sponsorships requests that are going to happen. And I just had a question, Sam, about the shade tree ordinance that has been going back and forth. Liz Stewart says every time that it's brought up, she has to take off work to come here.
Yeah, no,
So-
I have to take some blame, because Sam has been calling me for us to sit down to discuss the shade tree ordinance. I haven't had time in my schedule yet. I will get to that. Hopefully this week, Sam and I will meet. We'll be able to work out some minor modifications in the shade tree ordinance so we can put it back on the agenda.
Just to clear it up and do it, it's, for her to take off work seems
Mhm.
unfair. That's it.
All right, Johnny?
Just quick, I wanted to put something on the agenda for our next work session, work session, just a discussion. The Historic Commission wants to put videos up of prominent River Edge residents. They want to create a YouTube channel similarly like we did with our borough meetings, and they want to have a link to that to the website, so I figured we should discuss that. I don't think there'll be any problem with it, but just to discuss it and give our approval on it. And they want to put some other items up there, like River Edge Historic House surveys, ordinances, bylaws. So I just wanted to get that up to discussion. Are we going to be doing unfinished business, or should we do it now?
Yeah, no, we're going to do unfinished business. Ed, any reports?
No report.
Al, any reports?
Just real quick, I guess. I'm sure everybody saw it, but in the governor's budget, state aid to the schools increased roughly 30% to each school. So it translates to a little bit over $130,000 to each school. Over and above what they got last year. So.
Tom, anything? No? Okay.
not at this time.
I don't have a report, but I have some, I'll raise an issue when we get to unfinished business that we had a discussion on previously. We have the bid results for the Cherry Blossom Community Park remediation.
Mm-hmm.
We received a memo from, we received 2 memos, one from Sam and one from the Environmental Resolutions. So is there any discussion on that? Can we put that on for a resolution to award the bid. Alan?
We have one concern, Denise will elaborate on that. One concern we have, we may need Sam to revisit this and just clarify whether we can award the bid.
Mayor, if I may, when we were working on the resolution for next Monday, we noticed that, our bids came in at $28,008, but on the spreadsheet, Tom Miller had $28,750, with a note saying that this was the mathematical corrected amount. I know from the past, you can't just do that.
Right.
I went back in the specs, and apparently where he had $10 per grading, and at $5,550, it should have been $5,500. So we have to ask Sam about this. I know you cannot just change the figure on the bid.
I think they passed a law last year on clerical errors in the calculation of these bids. I could take a look at that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mainly concerns withdrawal of bids when there's a clerical, but we would appreciate you looking at it to see whether this is material and whether it can be, this can be waived. Yeah.
It's $50 yet less.
Yeah, no, I understand.
All right, so it may be on for a resolution to approve it, if it's corrected, right?
Yes.
All right. Unfinished business. Johnny?
Since we have the chiefs here, I was hoping we can get a report on the fire sirens, get the details on when Elm will be shut down, the one downtown turned on. Anything on that, chiefs?
Well, Elm can't, the agreement was that Elm wouldn't be shut down until we determined whether or not that siren was going to be adequate coverage. We've been in contact with Academy, as I've mentioned before. They are pretty much the only people on the block that will work with our antiquated fire sirens. We've had phone calls to them, and I'm going to say at least 2 emails have been sent to him, telling him what our desires are, that we need him to come down here and electrify that siren so we can get it programmed and up and running. It's our desire to get it running as much as it is yours. I mean, it's going to be an added benefit to us as well. I'll get another email off by week's end. I'll carbon copy you in on it as well, and we'll see where it goes. I can't force the guy to come down here. I do believe we've actually made a trip up here with this. That's correct, yes. And left messages with the secretary in the front office that we need this guy to call us. Where it stands now, it needs to be electrified. We've been told that they believe there is PS power to the pole, but it has to be taken from the weatherhead to the sign. And that's our responsibility to do. So we have to get these people to come in and take care of that. We get that done, we get a program, and it's fired up.
So
We're waiting on Academy. Bottom line.
well, you said the other part is our part to do. Is that Academy also
Well,
getting?
when I say our part, our responsibility, but we need Academy.
But Academy does all of it?
Correct.
And we can't get them to come in?
If the power's there, Johnny, Academy can just hook it up. We have the control box. The siren at Kindercamac and Maine has no programmable control box.
We have the in the office.
It's in the chief's office. That just has to be reprogrammed, hooked up, and then we should be ready to go.
So how do we know if there's power there? Academy also?
Academy told us when he did the visual, I guess a couple of months ago, that he felt that there was power to it. Now, that was just by him stopping and looking.
Okay, I mean, because we did basically give our, not word, but we said we were going to do our best to the residents that we'd get it done by March, or we would revisit shutting Elm and Kensington off. And that was the agreement with them. So
That again would have to be,
maybe we should meet with them again. I'll have to convey this message to them and see what their thoughts are, and we'll have to maybe sit down again and see what the next steps are. If we can get some sort of ETA to them, if you could also email that chain that, of the residents, that'd be good for them to kind of, they had an update on it also. Thank you.
Any other unfinished business, Ed?
Regarding the RFQs we got lately for the redevelopment attorneys, I'd like to bring both the companies in for interviews as soon as we can do it. We got
I only saw
calls from Dakotas.
Quigley.
and
Dakotas too, right?
And Quigley.
Right.
Yep. So,
Interviews?
I'd like to bring them in
All right,
as
so
soon
we
as
can
possible.
schedule interviews for that?
Next work session if possible.
What?
Yeah. because we're getting the RFPs from New Jersey Transit, I think we're at a point where we're going to start needing some guys.
Any other unfinished business?
Unfinished now, when new business.
Yes, the bylaws, I'd like to put those on the agenda. I think the committee isn't probably going to progress any further at this point, so I'd like to put that on the agenda for a full discussion, and we could circulate the two proposals and see where we're at with that. Also, just to point out, and just so everyone knows, the proposal we received from Castano Quigley, this firm broke off from a larger firm called Waters McPherson McNeil. They broke off, I don't know, probably about 11 years ago. I worked at Waters McPherson, and I do know the attorneys. I haven't dealt with them, though, in 11 years, but I just wanted to make that public.
Well, we're going to make disclosures, too, and I spoke with Sam, too. Dakotas does represent the Borough of Fort Lee on redevelopment matters, but I'm not engaged in their selection or anything to do with their contractual obligations to the borough. So, if I disclose it, I'll bring that out, too.
So it's no.
All right. Tom, anything in unfinished business? I have one matter in unfinished business, which was March is the beginning of grant season. The grants are opening up for a bid in March, many different grants, and I stress the need for a grant consultant, any grant consultant. We heard from one grant consultant, so I would like to put the selection of a grant consultant on the agenda for our next meeting. If you guys want to call in more grant consultants to interview, be my guest, but I'd really like to go ahead on grants for Voorhees, for the drainage, for maybe some paving, for the police department, for fire department items, for several different things. All right? Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. New business. Any new business? Ed?
Yeah, I wanted to just bring this out and maybe get some direction either through maybe Alan. One of the issues with this budget that's been gnawing at me is this BCUA increase, as it does every year. It went up $105,000 again this year for 11.6% increase. And that's $100,000 in the budget that we couldn't allocate for other things. And it seems that there's no effort on the state's part to start limiting their costs, either limiting them to a 2% increase like all the other public facilities. So I was wondering whether maybe we can either bring it up through the Riverside Cooperative or through the League or something, or even our representatives, to see if there's a way for the legislature to maybe put some thought into capping those utilities, because they're just passing these costs on to us, and then we have to deal with these massive increases. They went publicly, and first they announced that their rates only went up 2%. They published all the new rates, and then we got hit with the bill, and it was 11.6% increase after the fact. So I didn't see the new fees published in the record representing the new fees. So it's just something, this is the second year. In fact, since 2006, I bet the bills are probably up on the order of 30 or 40%. So I think it should be a major concern for most towns. So I would think we'd find some support from neighboring communities to at least get somebody's attention and see if there's something that could be looked at here.
Mayor and I are meeting with Senator Gordon on Wednesday. We can bring this to his attention, but we can also bring it up at our Riverside Cooperative, see if we have any support there. And failing that, certainly write a letter, or Mayor and Council pass a resolution and write a letter to the League of Municipalities, see if they can generate some support, across the state for all of these authorities and utilities that have, and joint meetings that have no connection to the municipalities.
Alan, why don't you email Faye in Hallworth and ask her to put this on the agenda for the next Riverside Cooperative meeting?
Certainly.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, if I'm not mistaken, Assemblywoman Wagner and Assemblyman Eustis, as well as Senator Gordon, wished to come before us and have a meeting. They had expressed that before our installation and after the election. So maybe we might want to invite them, because that was their request, that we invite them, and this be one of the items that we would discuss with them that we think needs to be brought up not just in the Senate, but in the Assembly.
Well, that's certainly an option. We'll have to find a meeting where, we don't have a busy agenda where they can come and do a town forum kind of a format.
I'm sorry, one more thing under...
New business?
Yeah, I think it probably falls under that. I had spoken with, or I should say emailed, with Lynn Buckingham. Miss Buckingham is the community outreach person for rebuilding together Bergen County, and she's interested in coming to our meeting, I believe, the second work session and regular meeting of the month, and just what their group does, what they don't do, and how maybe they can help people in River Edge, low-income seniors and things like that. So she's interested in coming and speaking to us about their group. So hopefully we can put her on the agenda and formally invite her for that second meeting of the month.
Second meeting in April?
In March.
March?
In March, yeah.
Look into that. Okay. We'll look into that. Any other new business? Kathleen?
This is involving our 4th of July Grand Marshal. At the 4th of July meeting, we did take a vote and unanimously chose Bob Levine. So I was hoping tonight just to get everyone's okay, and we can move ahead with that.
I think we have to, didn't we have put a resolution on?
No, I don't believe we've just taken a motion on it.
Just take a motion?
See if everybody agrees.
Yeah. Okay.
I make a motion to have Bob Levine as our Grand Marshal.
Well, you want to tell us something about Mr. Levine?
He's a World War II veteran, a POW. He was captured by the Germans and spent more than 30 days in a hospital where they had to amputate his leg due to shrapnel injury. He has lived in River Edge many years and is an advocate for the disabled and other veterans.
Okay.
He's been what to me?
He's been our representative for quite a few years now, too, for the ADA.
Oh, okay.
Quite a few years. Right, Alan?
Yes.
It's been a long time.
Goes back a long time.
Yeah.
All right, there's a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Good. Okay. We have a Grand Marshal. Any other new business? Payment of the bills, we're not doing that, right?
No.
We don't have any hearings. We're going to... Do I have a motion to open the hearing to the public?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, is anybody who's present would like to speak on any issue affecting the borough? Yes, ma'am. Just stand up and give us your name and address.
My name is Maureen Scanlon, 174 Hillside Ave. I'm here only because I didn't get the email this afternoon, but I got an email on part of the rent leveling committee. So I just wanted to say that we've been a very inactive committee because we haven't had any appeals, I would have to say, at least in the last 7 years. So, and the one that we did was, it took a while, but it was oh, I'm sorry, I don't like public speaking, so I'm like, okay, he had problems with the word is there, so, anyway, while I'm talking, but anyway, it was an experience that with our 4% cap, it really has deterred people from filing appeals because the 4% cap was a fair assessment, and when the garden departments who were appealing it, the residents there we're having a problem with because they wanted to make the rent retroactive. And he was, the landlord was saying because it's like I'm drawing a blank. Tell me, what are some of the reasons people file an appeal for? The developer or the owner?
You get a lower rent.
No.
Vacancy control?
It was a hardship, so that was what the appeal was, and he won the landlord. So we have not been an active committee for a long time, and I just wanted to say that it's going to be, again, at least 7 years since we've had anybody come in and appeal. So that makes any difference if you vote for this new issue that you're bringing forward with the taxes for the tax appeal to add it. We just haven't done it, so that's all I want to say.
We have several vacancies on the rent leveling board. We even put a sign up on our message board on Kindercamac Road for membership to the rent leveling board. The rent leveling board is made up of landlord representative, homeowner representatives, and tenant representatives. So we had vacancies. You're a homeowner representative, right?
Right.
Okay. We had a gentleman who wrote me a letter, Stephen Oatley, who's a tenant on Summit Avenue. So,
Let me know anything about that.
no, but I'm going to let you know now because I wanted to make sure his background was okay, which I did. So now we can put it on the agenda for a resolution approving him as a tenant representative. So you'll be getting a new representative on the rent leveling board. And Casey Connors, I think, I recently made a homeowner representative. So now that the rent leveling board will get new membership, maybe you can have a meeting. The mayor and council would like the rent leveling board's recommendation as to the existing ordinance, if it needs to be, if you're recommending any changes, if you're recommending to keep it the same, we'd like to know.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. And also, if it's possible, to send me some, or how to give us the names of each other, so because we haven't met in a very long time, so we are really, no problem. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm Jerry Markowitz. I live at 435 Elm Avenue. My question is just a general question about, are there any serious initiatives going on about sharing costs with nearby municipalities on some of the things that, like Councilman Porco alluded to earlier, some of the, we're talking about $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 pieces of equipment. Is there anything in the works to do something like that? It seems to me that probably within a mile of where we're sitting, there are town councils, talking about similar expenditures, probably 3 or 4 towns within a mile of here. And, it seems like it's a very costly way for us to operate. I've lived in town for 28 years. I'd say my taxes have probably gone up 400 to 500% in that time. And whatever model we have of this, home rule and keeping everything, just to ourselves, may have worked at some point, but now it's just become enormously expensive in terms of taxes, and just wondering what kind of things we can do, or what may already be in the works towards that end of trying to alleviate that by some sort of sharing, whether it be equipment or services or high-level jobs or something like that.
Thank you. Johnny.
Just to respond to that, everybody in this past couple of years that I've been doing this, and Tom will probably be able to weigh in even more, but everybody wants to share services as long as it's their services that they're sharing. That's what it seems like. And every time you go out and you try to say, okay, well, let's share this, okay, as long as it's our stuff that we're sharing. It's really, you would think that it would be a lot easier, but it really proves to be very difficult with our neighboring towns. For some things they do want to share, but for others, I don't know why, but it's become very difficult. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but for some reason, we've talked to them about certain things. I know I have on a couple instances, and, for whatever reason, it's just a difficult thing to get. They want their head of a department, or, in certain instances, we think our head of a department is better, or whatever, and it just becomes a very difficult situation. And I know they've tried it for years, and I really thought that it was going to be a lot easier than it is, but it's definitely proven to be a very difficult thing to come to grips with all the different scenarios and to agree on them. So that's just my take on it. It's not that we haven't tried in some instances, it's just for whatever reason it just does not pan out.
Kathleen?
I'll tell you, I am on the Shared Services Committee with New Milford, and they don't have a committee. So now it's trying to get them to make a committee to do that, but...
I can tell you that we share services in many ways. For instance, we have a joint contract for garbage pickup with New Milford that has saved us $180,000. We have interlocal agreements between communities for shared services. We have municipal aid agreements with our fire department and New Milford Fire Department and Oradell Fire Department and Paramus Fire Department, where we get mutual aid. We give them mutual aid and they give us mutual aid. So in a way, we do share services. We have to do more. We have to do more of it. We have to be more creative in that regard. We have a shared services committee for our neighboring towns, and it's always a work in progress. Anyone else wishes to be heard? We're doing the public.
Yeah, Tom Smith, 288 Manning Avenue, River Edge. Just a couple items. Both Neil and myself were involved, as well as other members, obviously, when Company 1 was redone. And part of what they did is they put the emergency management room in there. And you go upstairs on the second floor, you'll see there's a desk area there, which is set up for communications, which for the most part is just up in the ceiling. That communication could be brought right back down, boom, no problem whatsoever. That office has computer lines in it, it has phone lines in it. That room is ready in terms of what you were talking about with John in an emergency situation, that John could move his operation up there every time they got flooded out, and he wouldn't have to really do anything specifically to the infrastructure of that room or what's there and what's not there. Now, there might be something very specific to his operation that would have to be added, but in general terms of computer lines, phone lines, desks to work in, printers, it's all there right now. Okay, that's sort of thing. The second thing, and I know we don't normally get involved in running the operation of a department, but I got an email today, and it struck me when we were talking about the DPW and the roof for the library. They're putting brand new rugging in tomorrow, and it would seem to me that the roof would get fixed before the brand new rug would be put in. So I don't know, again, we don't get in the middle of stopping those kinds of things, but that one should have been put out a little bit, I think. Now, John said he's got it under control, and I hope he does, but to put all brand new carpeting in when you still have a roof leaking, that doesn't seem to make sense. And the last thing I want to just mention, we were talking about the bagging the leaves. And a lot of towns do that, and it's not that hard to do, it's just time consuming. But I tell you, my opinion on that would be, is that, first of all, we have well over 1,200 seniors, and I'm not talking the 55, 60, 61, 62, I'm talking the 70 and overs. They're not going to bag them, which means they're going to have to hire somebody to bag them. So while we're going to save money here, they're going to have to pay for that. It's just transferring that cost to the group of people in town who already, many of them are up against being able to live in River Edge. As this gentleman said here, when I moved into River Edge, which is even longer, in 1971, yeah, something like that, my tax bill was $980 a year. So I don't even want to talk about how much that's gone up, but it's just that when we get into those kinds of things, I mean, somebody nice, healthy guy or whatever, you can wait, no big deal. You put it in, it's a pain in the neck, you don't want to do it, but it can be done. You can get the machines on your lawnmowers and do it for you, and that can be done. But the seniors are going to be the ones that will if you make it. All right, most of them, even if they have a landscaper to do it, he's going to raise the price to do that part of it. So before you would jump on that, I think you want to consider that as really a tax, just giving it to them in a different way. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think last year when we had Mr. Lynch up here discussing the budget and the leaf pickup, we analyzed the cost savings if residents bag their own leaves. And I believe it came out to about $40 per household that they would save off their property taxes and the DPW budget.
Right.
So where can you get a kid to pick up your leaves for $40? I mean, you really can't.
That's my point.
Yeah. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. John Malley, 770 Oak Avenue, Chief in town here at the Fire Department. Just wondering, in light of Johnny's question, or Councilman Porco's question on the sirens, once Maine gets hooked up, we're going to have to do some sort of a test to figure out whether or not the coverage is adequate. And I was wondering what the status of the RFP for the test was, if it's moving anywhere or not.
No, I hadn't gone anywhere with it because there seemed to be a solution that was coming out of, the committee that was working. So I haven't reached out to Rutgers. I don't have that information. I don't know. The council will have to weigh in as to whether they're still interested in moving ahead with that study.
Okay. This might be something that you might consider looking into. I mean, if it's going to get to that point. I don't know whether any one of us is here qualified enough other than just listening by ear to figure out whether or not the coverage is adequate. Okay, thank you.
All right. Yes.
Greg Caree, 193 Wayne Avenue. Just two things real quick. Regarding the recycling, I just hope that the subcommittee considers, right now, I think the majority of the residents know that when they put their recycling out, not only is it good for the environment, but hey, we're getting something back for this. The town's benefiting. If we hire someone else outside and we're not getting anything back, other than, yeah, it's good for the environment, what incentive is there? I can dump my recycling in the regular garbage if we're not getting any money back. And the other thing is, I just, on a comment with the tree truck, I found it ironic that the tree truck got voted down, but we're spending $45,000 to buy new trees. And the fact that John Lynch made a comment that the front firewall, I think he said, is rotted out and he's getting fumes in the truck. Do some studies on diesel exhaust and the carcinogens. Firemen are dying left and right from exposure to diesel exhaust. But yet, we're going to let them ride around another diesel-filled truck for another year and a half. So, that's it.
Any other comments from the public? Can I have a motion to close the meeting to the public?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Okay.
Mayor, just...
Yes.
Let me just have a sec. We'd have the camera in now, so if we can ask people when they're making their comments to come forward and sit or stand by the mic, so this way we can get it all. I don't know if it's going to pick up people in the audience, and this way at least they can be seen and heard, and there's no, if we can.
Is that both the hearing and John and visual?
I think it will pick up, they said, but it'll obviously be clearer if they're up closer and people can see. I think it would be better, even for people in the audience, people at home. They'll be able to see, put names, voices to faces.
Thank you for reminding me, because I have to, I'll amend the public statement to remind people that proceedings are being recorded and they'll be on tape. Mr. Carroll.
Is the work session as well, or do we edit the tape to only have the council meeting?
Johnny can answer that.
No, we have both work sessions and regular meetings, if that's your question.
Only because I don't see the recorder going during the work session.
Yes, it is. Denise?
I don't see the little blinking lights.
That's not what we're using.
Oh, okay. So it was on before.
We're high-tech now.
That's because we're doing the budget was different.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Everything.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
I think I'm going to work out.
Yeah. Some rest.